Alex,
I'm so sorry I'm late.
I wasn't going to blame you. I wasn't going to throw you under the bus, but it's a double-decker bus now.
It's all my fault. And just when you thought you hadn't got enough, or you've had enough Apostate Alex for today with my live stream and live premiere, here I'm back again for video number 3.
Wow.
I don't think I've done this much content ever, but hi, I'm here.
It's good to see you, my friend.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing really well. Had a really good chat with Aaron yesterday.
Amazing, man. I was there in the chat.
I know. And we've
And
got
you're
another one
almost at
planned.
2,000 subs now, dude.
Yeah, just shy. So pretty much doubled overnight.
It's insane. You're gonna
The
overtake
power.
me before you know it.
I don't think so. Yeah, so today we're talking about you just leaked huge news where the IAS events are coming back for the first time since pre-COVID, right?
2019 was the last time they held an IAS event.
That's a long time ago. It's a big step because Mr. Miscavige, Captain Davey himself, is going to have to come out in public, fly internationally, and be susceptible to being served.
Yes, it's big news. I think it's interesting. If you look at it though, the court cases in which he's been evading service, I believe all of them now have got to the point where the judges have ruled that he has in fact been served, because I believe in US law there comes a point where if you have attempted service and you can prove that you've been to the appropriate addresses at the right time and you've tried enough times for a long enough amount of time, the judge will basically write that yes, you know, he's effectively for all intents and purposes served. I understand that in all of the court cases he was evading service in, that ruling has now been made. I might be wrong. There might be one or two where that ruling hasn't yet been made, but my understanding is that if it hasn't already been decided he has been served, it's very close to that happening. So by the time it comes to him coming to the to the UK for the IAS event, he probably won't actually be evading service anymore, if he already isn't already, unless there's a new court case that comes up or I've got that wrong. But Dave Miscavige has certainly been in hiding for at least the last year. We haven't seen him publicly in many years, and it's certainly the first time he's come to the UK in almost half a decade. So it's important news. It's exciting news. I think what a lot of people don't realize is the IAS event is an international event. It is the largest event in the Scientology calendar, that used to happen every single year. People fly in from all over the world to attend this event. It's not just for British Scientologists, it's for Scientologists all over the world. And if you can't attend in person, you are expected to attend an event in your local org where it will be live streamed, usually a couple of days after the actual event takes place, and not actually live, but played on a big screen. So this is huge, and the fact that it's happening in just under 4 weeks means David Miscavige is expected here in the UK imminently, if he is not already here.
Yeah, that's right. And on the note of flying to St. Hill, my dad actually flew to St. Hill for an event years ago.
Wow.
It is a thing. I didn't really understand at the time how big the event was, and why would you fly literally across the other side of the world almost to go watch an event when you can just watch it there? But it's a pretty big deal, and you have to be to it. You did share some images on your video, but just to give people the scale again of these events, I downloaded some Scientology propaganda pictures of their event, and I'll share that with you here.
Just so people understand the size of this event, I don't know how true this is or not, but when I was in Scientology, one of the things they would say to sell the event is they would have to hire the largest tent in Europe in order to hold the event. Now, I don't know whether this is in fact true or not. It wouldn't surprise me. I have spent a lot of time in these large tents because they do make appearances at festivals, and I work at festival sites during the summer. So, I wouldn't be surprised if that was true. But it is certainly a large tent that they put in the back garden of St. Hill Manor. It can hold, I believe it's 5,000 people, if I've got that right. And lots of people are saying these pictures are photoshopped to make it look busy. I assure you, these pictures are not photoshopped. These pictures are real, of real people that are there. It is a huge event. Always is, always has been. And they have an overflow car park field that they always actually run out of space in. They literally, Scientologists come from all over the planet to come to this event. It's huge.
Yeah. And just to give you some scale of this picture of L. Ron Hubbard here,
That's
there's
like a
David.
life-size picture of a real human, and then there's David Miscavige there next to him on the right.
That's right. Yeah. So all 2 foot, 2 foot there, and so it's about a 6 foot tall painting. No, yeah, like, so I haven't been involved in setting up this specific event before. However, when I was 14, I was involved in setting up the Golden Age of Tech event, and that was at the Shrine Auditorium, and that wasn't nearly as big as this, and that was a big affair. So every single year, these sets are different, right? Like, here's another one,
Mm-hmm.
and then the tent. You know what I mean? So it's all unique every year, and they don't reuse things. It's all the biggest thing. And this is also the biggest fundraising event. And actually, any point in the entire point of the year, this is where they raise the most amount of money by celebrating people such as, sorry for the small picture, but this guy here, Michael Roberts, fairly famous celebrity, at the very least internally, in a lot of films that Scientology has put together. He's an actor, huge donator to the IAS, and of course Bart Simpson. There, they get these elaborate trophies for giving money to the war chest of Scientology, is what they call it.
Exactly. To give you an idea of the scale of this event, I actually asked Mark Headley a while ago. This was back in January, so I don't have the actual video link itself, but I wrote down some key figures. I was asking him on a live stream that he did on his channel, Blown for Good, about the kind of event budgets that we're talking about here, because he used to work at these events during his time working for the Sea Org and in the sort of audiovisual department. And just to give you an idea, he said a typical production budget for an IAS event. Now, this is for video effects, sound and special effects, talent, anyone that's being paid to come over and, speak at the event or perform or whatever. He said a typical IAS production budget was between $500,000 and $700,000. On top of which, $100,000 to $200,000 was spent just on David Miscavige. For example, his private jet, his crew, his food and accommodation. He likes to stay at the Savoy Hotel in London while he's here. Overall, this event has a production budget of well over $1 million. For example, the New Year's Eve event is quite often, he says, a budget of over $1 million. They pay between $200,000 and $300,000 just for people professionally to be contracted to come and film the thing and prepare it for broadcast to other countries around the world. Now, they have their own media production company, SMP, where it will be edited and that sort of thing, but they do like to get professionals in, and they use the top videographers and camera equipment and so on from around the world. They contract it out to video it and make sure it's the highest quality broadcast kind of ready stuff. So I cannot underestimate how huge this event is and how important it is that it is happening here in the UK in 4 weeks.
And see, that's something I did not know, that they hired outside people.
Yeah.
That blows my mind that they would pay when they have all this professional equipment already,
They
right?
would hire. Mark Eddy was saying about, for example, when they do events at the Fort Harrison, they will get like a production truck, basically, where they hire the same people who do the live filming of the Super Bowl and NFL football games and so on. It's like a semi trailer. With audio editing and videography production type stuff in the trailer, he will spend the same amount of money that they would be like COB, Chairman of the Board, David Miscavige, will pay the same amount they would get paid for the Super Bowl to record their Scientology event that is attended by a couple of thousand people so that it is broadcast ready, high quality stuff, ready to then be broadcast around the world. Now, a lot of the post production they will do in house, especially now they have their own television production studios in LA. They will translate the speech into as many languages as you can think of, so that it's ready for broadcast across the world. They do their own video, like special graphics and things like this, and their nice event shiny videos and all this are all done in-house, but the actual filming of the event is usually done by outside professionals because they have A, money to spend, and B, they want to make sure it's the best thing ever in terms of production quality, because it's so important to them that they get the message out to as many Scientologists as possible.
Exactly. And they'll use people. So I do have a couple of questions here, a comment. So Nancy Cartwright was who I showed there, the blonde lady. Bart Simpson. Yeah, that's the voice of Bart Simpson, that lady. And Mrs. J here, she gave 20 million about 6 months ago. That's insane. But
a lot of people don't realize Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, Scientologist. She got told off once because she recorded using Bart Simpson's voice, a message that was sent to, I think it was all Scientologists, basically regging money and saying, hey, you should donate to the whatever fundraiser it was at the time. And she got told off because she's not supposed to use Bart Simpson's voice because it's copyrighted and so on, and it's the intellectual property of whoever produces the Simpsons
or whatever.
But she got told off for doing that, and it's online. You can listen to Bart Simpson fundraising for Scientology on YouTube if you want to.
Yeah, you should definitely check that out. I haven't heard it myself, but I've heard of it. It's
hilarious.
It's definitely not beyond Scientology to convince their people to go above and beyond what they should be doing to get more money. So in the years that you were in, what would you say has been the most fantastical parts of events that you've seen, like these IAS events specifically for fundraising? I know in Vancouver, they would always put on some sort of like a scheme, some sort of event where everyone dresses the same way or whatever. I'm sure you guys are pretty creative there in the UK. So what would you say was the best you saw?
Yeah, I think the most standout was the golden age of tech too, because at this event, they played the Super Bowl ad with the unveiling of the new e-meter, and that was huge. Like, I will never forget the gasp, the audible gasp, standing in the audience at London Org, of like, oh my god, how cool is this? A, we have a new e-meter, and B, we're being so open and telling everyone and showing them the e-meter that's never been shown in a public advert before. We are being so open and honest about what Scientology really is. Oh my god, how great is this? That was the opinion people had when this new commercial that featured the e-meter was played during this event, and everyone was so psyched. They thought this was like the next big thing. This was going to change Scientology forever, and it did really feel like a monumental shift, a moment in Scientology's history. Little did I know this is the sort of thing that Scientology has been doing for decades, and I do not understand how someone who was at that event, who is OT8 and has been in Scientology since the 70s, can still be excited about this promise of a new era and a golden age when it's the fifth or sixth time that's been promised. For me, it was the first time, so I believed it. But when you've been in Scientology a long time, I don't get how they can still get excited. They can still dangle that carrot, and you know, people still believe it. I don't get it. But events are really good fun. They were always a good, you know, time. We had drinks and snacks and food, and everyone was really upbeat and happy. But ultimately, it was always about making money, and there was always a fundraiser sort of aspect to it at the end.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of food, there was a question regarding that. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, here we go. Danielle is asking, do Sea Org members get to look forward to a hearty feast at these events?
I can only speak to London Org, for example, where I was. We would always go out and buy stuff, charcuterie boards, and you know, like crisps and snacks and stuff. And we had birthday cakes at the birthday event. Like it was party food type stuff. And yes, the Sea Org members were able to enjoy that. At the IAS event, there is a big patrons ball, for example, where there is a really nice 5-star Michelin star kind of level meal that happens. My understanding is the Sea Org members do not go to that because you have to pay for a ticket. If you are a particularly wealthy Sea Org member, say you've got family who are public Scientologists that have donated a lot of money, perhaps they'll buy you a ticket and you'll be able to go and sit with your family and have a nice meal. Yes, but if you are just a normal member of the Sea organization that happens to be at St. Hill during the IAS event, generally, no, you wouldn't have a ticket to the patrons ball. You wouldn't have a nice big feast with everyone else. You'd be expected to work probably longer hours than normal because you will be running the event and getting everything set up and so on.
Yeah, and at least in Vancouver, a lot of times I was thrown onto the I volunteered for the setup and teardown crew. So the events would usually happen on a Saturday night. So I was on foundation staff. I would do it in my entire post. I'd probably leave about 3 o'clock. We'd go set the event up, and then the event would end, and I'd actually have to stay late and tear down, and then go back the next day back on the post. So event nights were actually quite a bit of work.
I quite often didn't actually get to see the event itself when I was on staff because I was busy working, you know, whether that's preparing food and snacks or tea and coffee or preparing a room ready for some event to happen afterwards to move people into, or working with, you know, we were assigned public. So, for example, if you had a good relationship with, you know, Joe Blow, then you would be assigned Joe Blow. Okay, great, he's your guy, and you would be responsible for saying hello to him as he arrives, and you know maybe sitting next to him during the event, and then speaking to him afterwards, and making sure he donates for whatever it is you're trying to fundraise for. So you are working at these events, and it's very rare that you actually get to watch it and enjoy it. So quite often we would have like a staff screening the day before, so that we can see the event and be clued up on it before it's then shown to the public the next day.
Yeah, and same. And on that point of sitting next to somebody, so if there was a whale that was in the audience, we would actually have a pre-meeting beforehand to see who had a good relationship with them, and they would actually go and sit next to them. And as things are happening, like they would have the reg event where they'd be asking directly for money, and they'd be like, "Yeah, what do you think? You can do it." And they would actually encourage them to donate very overtly, but it's all very conniving, and we'd pick people out, have our own targets.
Yeah, it would always be a game, right? It was kind of like after the event's finished, say it's like an Ideal Org event or something, it would be like, okay, great, that's over now. Now everyone, while you're sat in your seats, before you go anywhere, let's start playing the fundraiser game. Who's gonna donate money to the IAS today? And they put on some music and dance around and be like, okay, and then someone will be like, oh, donate, you know, $50, and they go, hey, put your name on the wall, write it down, you know, Jeff Beaumont, $50, and then they just kind of stand there and wait until the next person says, oh, I'll donate as well, until you have this whole flip chart kind of A0, A1 size piece of paper that's filled up with names of people pledging to donate to the IES event or whatever the fundraiser is they're doing at the time. And often it would be thousands and thousands of dollars in pledges raised, Scientologists would know if they came to the event and didn't donate. It would kind of be questionable. Why aren't you donating
Hmm.
when everyone else in the room has pledged even just $20? You know, you have to pledge something, otherwise there's a guilt trip there.
Yeah, you basically get sent to ethics for it. So
Yeah, helicopter, they just wait. That's so awkward. Yeah, they literally like stand, and I've actually got a video of it. So I'm going to be sharing this very soon. I have a video of one of these fundraiser events at Birmingham Org here in the UK that was held a few years ago. I am just waiting for the legal sign off on it because it does contain people's faces. So I need to double check with my lawyer friend, Jonathan Code, whether I can do that data compliant wise. And he reckons it probably should be okay, but I just want to get the sign off before I do it. But there's a video of this exact thing happening, of like putting on some music and dancing and kind of like, cool, great, just standing there looking, and like if no one does anything, they kind of shout, okay, who's gonna be next? You know, come on, guys, let's play the game. You know, who's gonna pledge something? Try and make it a game. And they might throw things in there and be like, if you donate $100, you know, you can get this T-shirt. Yay! Who wants the T-shirt? And they just keep going until
mhm.
everyone in the room has pledged something.
It is super awkward.
Mm?
Um, I don't know what happens in London, of course. I'm sure it's the same, but there's people that fly around for these events, and that's their job. They're just fundraisers. That's all they
Yeah.
do. And when they come to town, so there's a few of them that would come to Vancouver pretty often. Was like, is it Jeff Pomerantz?
Yeah.
He's the voice, I believe, of the Scientology events.
Mm-hmm.
It was always really cool when he came. Chili B, the rapper, would do these. Jim Meskimen would come to Vancouver.
I
And
will
I don't know if
never
anyone.
forget the Chili Bee rap,
Yeah,
the IAS event. Yeah, fucking hilarious. I love
and he
that.
has the like the dreads hanging on the
Yeah,
dread
yeah.
beards, whatever.
Dauntless and defiant, we're resolute, nothing we can do. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was bad singing, but that was the IES song. That was a new version of We Stand Tall in like 2014. IAS. Yeah.
So that was after I left then. So
Okay, but still
sorry,
terrible.
sorry, I
Yeah,
missed that one.
Chili B basically did a new rap song for the IES, and it's terrible. I'll try and find it and send it to you. It's on YouTube somewhere.
Please do. Maybe we can do a reaction video. But yeah, like we would be as staff, you can't leave before these events are over. And
Mm-hmm.
so as the night wore on, people are leaving. There's 12, 15 people left who haven't donated or just have this sense that they need to stay. And we'd just be sitting there and it'd just be like trying to drum up any kind of enthusiasm, even though it's like midnight. We're 5,000 away from whatever goal there was, because there's always a goal when they roll in, depending on which org it is and how many public are there. They always have a goal.
Yeah.
So 50,000, 100,000, whatever. It's super important that goal is met, because if they don't, then those fundraisers have to stay and continue to call public, right?
We would pre-reg people
Mhm.
when there was an event. Like if we knew there was an event coming up and we had our buddies who were assigned to, these people that we were responsible for getting money from because we had a good relationship with them. A lot of us would pre-reg when we call them up and say, hey, you are coming to the event next week, aren't you? It was never a question of can you come? It was are you coming at 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. type question. We would do pre-regging, so we would try and gauge from them what sort of pledge they would be willing to make, and off the back of that, we would then, as a group, have a target. Okay, we reckon we can make 50 grand. Okay, great. Well, let's try and make that the game. But that number, that target, would come off the back of our conversations of figuring out who's going to come and how much money they are likely to donate, and then it would become a game to try and smash that target.
Yeah, that rarely happened in Vancouver. Like it was super uncommon for us to actually meet and definitely not exceed that goal, because once it's met, people just want to leave.
Yeah,
right. Like it's now okay to leave, and the staff are like, okay, let's go. We've been on post. We're tired. We want to go. So
yeah.
Anyway, I did want to share one other thing. So just on the topic of actually just asking for money straight out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, if I can find it. There it is. So Debbie Cook wrote an email, and sorry, one sec. I'm kind of screwing myself up here. Talk amongst yourself there for a second.
I'm
I
just
cannot.
singing that IAS song to myself again that I haven't heard in probably about a decade, and yet is still stuck in my head. I will never forget it. It's like the We Stand Tall. It's just so catchy. You'll never get it out of your head.
And I don't know where the heck this thing went.
We can see it on the screen. You've got it open.
I know, but I can't seem to find it on my screen over here.
Excellent.
Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. All right. So this is a letter that Debbie Cook wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And very specifically, I'm going to read it here. So
Zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit small.
How's that?
Hey, that's better. Yeah.
Perfect. So, asking for money directly, super not okay in Scientology, according to L. Ron Hubbard. I believe that the IAS was actually formed after L. Ron Hubbard died. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it would have been, this is their 39th year. So yeah, it would have been 80
just after
something. Yeah.
So this is a letter from Debbie Cook that she wrote to Scientologists when she was unhappy with how things were going in Scientology, and she was essentially leaving. And somehow she got everyone's emails and sent it to all Scientologists.
1984, the IS was founded. So LRH was still alive, but he was in hiding because he died in 1986. There is a question over whether or not LRH actually knew about the IES. I believe he did know about it, but I don't think he was fully informed or involved in its formation, or fully informed in the way that it's going to operate. And it certainly isn't now what it would have been pitched to him as when he was alive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not that I'm trying to defend anything to do with Scientology or care whether LRH agreed or not, because, I have my opinions on that. But I just find that this is fascinating, how people ignore this information, and David Miscavige doesn't seem to care about tech when it suits his needs. And I'd just like to point that out as much as possible. Using Scientology against Scientology is always the best thing to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So specifically this here, get rid of distractions from Scientology in your org, babysitting or raffle tickets and such nonsense. If the org slumps, don't engage in fundraising or selling postcards or borrowing money. Just make more income with Scientology. It's a sign of a very poor management to seek extraordinary solutions for finance outside Scientology. It has always failed. For orgs as for PCs, solve it with Scientology. Every time I myself have sought to solve financial or personnel in other ways than Scientology, I have lost out. So I can tell you from experience that org solvency lies in more Scientology, not patented combs or fundraising barbecues.
I think this whole thing is so interesting because it means one of two things. Either it's actually in David Miscavige's favor that he read this and made the decision L. Ron Hubbard doesn't know what he's talking about, and therefore what he said is rubbish, and I'm going to go and do something different because I think this will work better. Which is a pro point in David Miscavige's favor, that he actually acknowledges that it's not all 100% correct. Or David Miscavige does believe everything is 100% correct, and LRH is completely right, and Scientology is the only way to save the planet, and he's just, for whatever reason, gone against what L. Ron Hubbard said. But either way, it just paints a picture of, like, either you fully believe in Scientology, and if you fully believe in Scientology and what LRH said is gospel, then there's no way you can support the current church because it has gone against what LRH said. Or you admit and accept that maybe not everything LRH said is true, and actually, they have raised a lot of money. You got to remember, David Miscavige has been at the helm of Scientology longer than L. Ron Hubbard was.
Yep.
He died in 1986. David Miscavige has been the leader of Scientology longer than L. Ron Hubbard. And they have made a lot of money. And you look at how much money Scientology has made between 1986 and today, it is a lot. Scientology is shrinking. It's gone through booms and peaks and troughs, but ultimately it has worked in a cash grab kind of way, but it hasn't worked in the longevity, long-term kind of way. So actually, maybe LRH was right, because the fundraising tactics they've used hasn't helped Scientology. And that's what Ron Hubbard said in the first place.
Yeah. So maybe we do have to give him some credit, as much as we don't want to. And then obviously that also, what I just read, applies to the Ideal Org fundraising, which is another massive, massive way to just get money for nothing. And I think the other point, and again, I don't believe in Scientology is true or anything, but the policy that is being violated as well is taking something without any kind of exchange. In the case of IAS, you could argue, well, we use the money to destroy SPs and fight psychiatry and so forth, and that's what that money is used for. All the front groups and so forth. But then the Ideal Org, we talk about the org in the States that they're just they're renting out this small old strip mall org, while their brand new building is sitting there. I forget which one it is now, but they've spent $23 million on this brand new building.
Yeah.
And the only reason that they don't move in is because they can't do the grand opening, and essentially, right? Like, it's already ready to go.
Yeah, they just don't have enough staff members to open it as an Ideal Org. It's a similar story in the UK. Birmingham is now open, but Manchester, Sunderland, and Bournemouth and Poole are three cities in which Scientology have spent millions of pounds buying these lovely buildings ready for renovation. And because they have to fundraise from, like, the local public have to pay for their own org to be renovated, they have sat there empty for 16 years. And the Manchester building particularly was actually almost bought back by the council under a compulsory purchase order just before the pandemic, because the local authorities were upset that Scientology had bought this building in Manchester and hadn't refurbished it, and it was sat there crumbling and falling down and looking a bit of a state. And the local authority were like, look, you need to start renovations in the next 6 months, or we will forcibly take the building from you. Then the pandemic hit, and luckily that gave them a bit more time. But they are under immense pressure to do something with these buildings. I guess the argument would be made with the Ideal Org strategy that there is an exchange, because I'm donating to this project, and in return, we get a lovely new org building that can deliver Scientology better than the one we've currently got. And the exchange is on a planetary level, because we're helping expand Scientology rather than a personal one-to-one exchange. I guess that's the exchange they would probably claim to have. But in reality, these people are spending money, and they don't even end up owning the org.
No.
Once you've raised however many million to buy this building, the building is bought by Church of Scientology International or Sea Org Reserves or something like that, and then the local org then rents that building off Church of Scientology International. So they then have to fundraise again to buy the building off their own separate sister company. The whole thing's ridiculous.
It's not something you're told when you're donating the money. Like, you don't get told that this isn't your org now. This money is going to the landlord office, and that's actually a thing. It's its own separate thing, right? It's in the CLO. And they're in charge they're the landlords.
Yeah.
Like, it's nutty.
The
Um,
UK is the exception to that rule. The UK's financial operations are a little bit different to everywhere else in the UK and in the world. Sorry, Church of Scientology Religious Education College Incorporated, which is the entity they operate through here in the UK, they actually own the freehold to the majority, if not all, of the buildings here in the UK. So when you donate to the International Association of Scientologists, it doesn't go towards Scientology's UK operations. The only money that goes towards the buildings and that sort of thing is if you donate an all for a service or something like this, that goes to Cosrecki. It goes through Australia. It's a whole different topic for a different day. But those buildings are owned by the church in the UK, not by the international office, which is the other way around, because I believe the IAS or the landlord office or one of these actually loaned money or donated money to the UK for us to be able to buy the building in London. And it's not normally done that way. London was one of the exceptions because they wanted to get it open, particularly for Tom Cruise, because he was filming Mission Impossible at the time. The IES gave money to the local public to buy the building and renovate it, which is not what normally happens. But yeah, that's a whole different topic.
which have you covered that on your channel? Or are you going to?
Not yet. It's just something I've come up with now that I just thought we should do a video on that.
That sounds very convoluted.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The movements of money, particularly here in the UK, are fascinating. For example, the UK has borrowed money from the Church of Scientology International and the US entities for decades, and the UK Church of Scientology currently owes $100 million to its US counterparts. They are paying this money back in these loans back with interest. So the tax exempt US Church of Scientology International, Flag Service Organization, and Celebrity Center International are all tax exempt entities in the US that are profiting off lending money to an overseas entity. That is the fact of the matter. That is what is happening today. And it looks like it's legal, but ethical, certainly not.
No. Like, if the IRS knew this was happening, that, I mean, in my mind, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant by any means, but like there must be something wrong with that legally, right? Like, yeah, another video for another time. I can't wrap my head around it.
Whole topic. I've delved into that particular thing quite a lot on my website, Scientologybusiness.com. If anyone watching wants to know more about the finances and structure of Scientology in the UK and Europe, head to Scientologybusiness.com. That's where I do this sort of stuff. I've actually mapped out the web of shell companies they use in the UK and how all the money flows between them and all the directors and how they're linked. It's a fascinating topic. Follow the money. It does lead to some interesting places, particularly here in the UK.
Have you looked at other countries in that regard to see?
Yes. So I started with the UK. I've expanded into Holland, France, and Germany are the three main ones I'm looking at the moment, with articles coming soon. I also have some stuff in my inbox from South Africa that I haven't started delving into yet. But the interesting thing with it is all of this money movement, questionable financial activity dates back to the 70s. Cosrecki, the organization they operate through here in the UK, was started in 1977 or 78. And they've been operating through this Australian registered charity in the UK for 40, 50 years. So to actually go back and figure out how all of this stuff is linked is a lot of work, and it will take me a long time. So this is just the beginning. But yes, the Scientology business will report on the UK, Europe, Commonwealth, Canada is on the list. So if anyone wants to get involved and write articles or do some investigative work, get in touch. I'm always happy to to take submissions and work together as a team. The more people that can contribute to the Scientology business website, the better. I want it to be a media platform rather than just a personal blog. And it is currently the only Google verified news source on Scientology. Scientology's own publications and magazines are not verified Google news sources on the topic of Scientology. Scientology Business, my website, is the only verified news source on the topic of Scientology.
They must love that. Well, that's good. So yeah, if anybody wants to help him out, go there. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover in regards to the IAS events, fundraising, and so forth?
I have had a lot of questions and a lot of activity in my inbox, particularly since I broke this news on Twitter earlier today about the IS event happening here in the UK. People asking how can they stop it? How can they get involved? Is there going to be a protest or a demonstration, something like this? And all I can say at this stage is I don't know. You certainly can't stop it. The event will happen whether you like it or not. However, there have been protests that have occurred peacefully, of course, outside St. Hill, where the IS event happens. In many years that this event has been held, I have already seen sufficient evidence that there's enough public interest in a potential demonstration or protest of some kind happening in 4 weeks' time outside St. Hill. I don't know whether that is such a thing that is going to happen or has been organized already, but if you are interested and want to take part in some sort of demonstration or, you know, holding up banners promoting the Aftermath Foundation or something outside the gates on the day of the event, get in touch to let me know you're interested. And there's a few of us speaking about what may and may not happen. And if I find out any information about this sort of protesting happening, I will keep everyone updated. But drop me an email. hello@apostatealex.com is the address. And yeah, I'll keep you in the loop about anything I hear about going on to protest the event. But in the meantime, keep in touch on the comments, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And I'll keep bringing the news to you as I receive it.
I think that protests is, you know, so in 2008, when the anonymous protest happened, that was a huge turning point for Scientology, and it's the chances of it surviving dropped down a notch. Now that's been 15 years ago, and with Laura FM on her channel participating live with her protest down at Big Blue, that was awesome. And I honestly think that if there was another mass protest event once a week, you know, coordinated worldwide, or at least in the major cities where the majority of the Scientologists are there are so many Scientologists on the bubble that if this was to happen again, I believe that that would actually nudge them over the edge. At least
I
to a
always
certain degree.
thought that seeing Lara's protest, I think when I was watching that, I was thinking, you know what would be great? Imagine if there was a daily protest against Scientology outside Big Blue. So what Lara did, imagine, even if it was just for an hour every single day, and it would have to be at a different time every single day. Otherwise, Scientology would just change their schedule because they know that between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that's the protest time. You know, so it'd have to be a different time. But if a small group of people could just get together and make a bit of a scene in a peaceful protest every single day of the week at different times, I think that would annoy them quite a lot, even if it's just 5 people. And imagine if we can get something like that going around the world, and it would be at the point where they cannot escape the voice of the second gens and the voice of the people who have left Scientology. And you know, it's not about getting hundreds of people there, it's about getting a small number of very vocal people there regularly. There are a few logistical difficulties with St. Hill because it's in the middle of the countryside. There's not really much space on the side of the road. There's no footpath or anything like that. So logistically, it's not the easiest to hold a protest at St. Hill, but it has been done and it can be done. But at the city level orgs, you know, there's nothing wrong with doing a little demonstration as long as you abide by the laws, you're not violent, you're peaceful, and you're holding up placards and, you know, doing what you're told with the police and so on. You know, I think there's merit in that.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that happens is if people start blocking the sidewalk and pissing people off.
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's where I find a lot fall apart, and
It was
you stop getting public support at that point.
Yeah, and also think about the effectiveness of what you're doing. You know, when I was director of public book sales, people would come into the org all the time and be like, "Oh, Xenu, you're a cult. You believe
Yeah.
in aliens." That did nothing to change my mind whatsoever because I was so trained to deal with that. You have to be really targeted with your messaging and the frequency, because if there was a protest, I would just write it off in my head as, "Oh, you know, look, these guys are just coming. You know, there's not many of them. It's one day. You know, who cares what they think?" Whereas if there was a consistent every single day group of people peacefully protesting with messages such as, you know, we're SPs and we are here to care and love you and we want to help you, and if you know so and so who is working there at the moment, you know, your brother misses you or your
Hmm.
family want to hear from you, holding up personal messages from family members, that sort of thing is going to have a real impact when it is done every single day, because that's a message that those people are going to see and they're not going to be able to avoid. If it's a one-off thing, as a Scientologist on the pub in a public facing role, I just kind of wrote it off and thought, who cares? And I'm not going to think about that. You know, I'll forget about it tomorrow. But if it's so often you can't hide from it, that will start getting people turning in their heads, I think.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Well, is there anything you would like to talk about, sir?
No, I think that's it. Just, you know, I saw Goldie's message there about Danielle. Danielle's birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday, Danielle,
Happy birthday.
for tomorrow. I actually met up with her for coffee today. She was in London. That was lovely. Um, if you haven't already, I interviewed Dave Griffiths. So go and check that out. He's never spoken about his story publicly before. He tells a really interesting tale of how he went from joining Scientology to being £100,000 in debt. And it's a really interesting interview. So go and check that out on my channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. You can buy me a coffee with the link in the description, and the same for you, Jeff. Right? If you
Yes.
have coffee as well, if you want to support Jeff and support his channel, Jeff is new to SPTV. I can't believe you're almost at 2,000 subscribers. Go and show him some love. If you're watching this on my channel and you're not already subscribed to Jeff, go to his channel, PTS for Life, and share the SP love.
I did start a membership program on my coffee as well.
How exciting!
So the first level is misdemeanor. So that's
Nice.
the not too bad, but then you move up to the crime and high crime, and you definitely get a lot of Scientology attention there. So that's the way to do it.
I love that. Mine are named after different ethics. I've got like the Clear to Eternity package. I've got the
Oh,
OT
nice.
package. I think I've got the officially PTS is the first package, and then I think I've got the OT package. And one of the things I say is like £20 a month or something. It's cheaper than auditing.
This is true. This is true.
So
Awesome, my friend. Well, let's end it at that. And I
thank
look
you.
forward to our next chat. And for everyone watching,
Likewise.
like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.